art stars, and welcome. Today we're going to create something called a scene quotidian, or a daily scene in other words. So snapshots or images, pictures of everyday life. So this could be something very simple. You might do something very simple like two people talking close up. Or it could be something more complicated. I've not finished painting this one, but you can get the idea. This is at the market stall with people buying bread, so lots of things going on. Imagine it was a photograph or a snapshot from everyday life. And we're going to be focusing on composition and also on perspective as well, so how things get smaller when they're further away. And you'll notice when you watch films or look in storybooks at the illustrations, a really big important part of creating these images or stories is the angle from which it's taken. So for example, if we've got two people having a conversation, sometimes people will draw two whole people, their whole bodies, standing there talking, but really there's no need. We could just have a zoom in, a close-up of two people's mouths if someone's talking or eating, or half their bodies or their faces. So these are all things to consider when you're drawing a picture or creating a composition. Or like I say, something busier like a market stall, we can see lots of people going about, doing different things, standing in different positions, so sideways on, front ways on, just seeing the back of their head. Things can be done a number of different ways. Now, if you've done a scene quotidien with me before last term, you might want to try something a bit more complicated today, like drawing a whole scene of a park or a market stall or a town centre with several things going on. If this is your first time, you might want to just do a close-up of two people talking or someone eating, just something zoomed in and close, because remember, because of perspective, the closer something is to us, the bigger it appears, and the further away it is, the smaller it appears, and also the less detail we see. We can just make out the shapes. So what I'd like to advise you to do, and if you can make time to do this, this will really help you with your drawing, is to get an object, just a simple object, like I've used a lemon here, or an apple or an orange, piece of fruit or a ball, and just place it in different parts of the house and draw it. Your drawings don't need to be too fussy. You can just spend about 15 minutes on this, just to observe how things look in different places. So this is my lemon on the table in front of me, and I took it from above, so it looks really big here. And then this is on a coat hanger in proportion, in contrast to the size of the coat and the easel it's leaning on. It looks really small from a way back. And this is on a window ledge, again looking small. And again, this is on a light switch, quite a big light switch, and in proportion to the picture on the wall and the light switch, it actually looks really, really tiny. This was a really, really wide switch. So it's how things look in contrast to one another and where we're having them, for example, or where we're showing them. So, for example, if an illustrator does a picture of a bird flying over the city, they could be shown a number of ways. It could be looking up at the sky, we can see the bird from below, or we could just get that feeling from seeing above the bird and having a bird's eye view of the city and all the house tops and the building tops, a bird's eye view from above. So these are all really important things to bear into consideration. So what I'd like you to do to start is just pause me, and like I say, choose an object, nothing too fussy like a toy, because the main thing is looking at the positioning. So just an object, piece of fruit or a ball, and just spend 10 or 15 minutes doing 3 or 4 drawings of how it looks in different places. So it could be putting it up above, putting it on the ground, it could be putting it in your garden, and then going up to a bedroom window and drawing it from below, and how it looks just in front of you. Just try it different ways, or put it next to something really small, really tiny, like a safety pin, and how it looks in how it contrasts that scale wise, and maybe next to something really big as well. And this will just really open your mind to possibilities of where and how things can go and what viewpoint we can look at it from. And today I'm going to do a picture of a park with people in, so it's a slightly more complicated drawing. You're welcome to do it step by step with me and personalise it a bit, so add in some things yourself, maybe some dogs, animals, birds. And I'm just going to use some watercolour paints, and I've got some oil pastels I'm going to use here, and look at how we can use the oil, or you can use wax crayons, and how it works alongside watercolours, so how it resists the paint. If you want to use something else like felt tip pens, or it could just be a pencil drawing, absolutely fine. It's up to you what media you want to use. So I'm just going to move my camera down so you can see what I'm doing. Ooh. Sorry, I'm just readjusting. There we go. There we go, that should be nice and clear. So I've drawn my picture out really lightly in pencil just so I can trace over it and you can see. So I've got my composition correct, and I'm going to do a picture of a park. So remembering my rule here that things that are close up are big, things that are closer up to us appear big, and things that are further back appear small. So I'm doing the boating lake at Hyde Park, and to start I'm going to start with the boat at the front of the lake, and I'm going to make it really big. Remember to do yours lightly in pencil first, and then you can draw over them afterwards. And like I said, I've just drawn mine out just to make it easier for me, so I've got a guide or reference when I'm drawing, but I'll go over it now as I do it and talk you through. So right at the front, which will be in my eye line, the foreground image, the thing closest to us, is the boat, and the people are going to look quite big because they're up close to us. We can just see these people sitting on the side of the boat. So again, nice and big because it's the foreground image, it's up close to us, and they're going to be holding going to be rowing the boat like this. So like I say, nice and big, and the foreground image is what's up close to us. So this is the large area. This is the lake here. I'm going to make it really big. So the line for the lake comes up nice and high. And like I said, I'm just doing it darkly in pencil so you can see. I've already fleshed it out or sketched it out lightly, which is what you should do with your pictures, just with the light pencil line. There we go. There's the top of the lake, there's the boat. And I've got some little boats at the back of the lake, at the top of the lake. I've made them smaller because they're further away. So here are just some boats waiting for people. And then on the path I've got some more people, but they look really small in contrast to the ones on the boat because they're further away. So I'm just going to draw some people. And as well, like I say, when things are further away, we can't see much detail, so they can be very simple. We can just have the outlines and the silhouettes like that. So on my path, I just do a little circle for the head and the line down for the body. If you find drawing people difficult, you can just draw stick figures and then flesh them out, draw the detail on, make their bodies a bit wider. There we go. I'm going to do a lampshade like that. And this is the edge of the path, the pathway on the land. So I'm going to do a line over. And then we've got some trees, and these would be really, really tall, humongous trees in life. Again, they're a way back, so I'm showing them as being a bit smaller, but obviously still bigger than the people. And this is, like I say, today is more about acknowledging scale and proportion and viewpoint. So if you've got your own way of drawing things, your own style that you want to use and apply to drawing people or trees whatever it is you're drawing, that's absolutely fine. I just want you to really focus on the positioning of things. So, like I say, the area at the front should be really big. That's our foreground image. The midground is this area in the middle. And then background is further back, is right at the back. I'm going to do some little rectangles here to show where there's some deck chairs. Just draw out my trees. And like I say, remembering when things get further back, we can't see the details because it's further away from us. So we can keep those relatively simplistic. There we go. So here's my picture of Hyde Park. I'm going to start by painting the lake, I think. So I'll go with blue, I think. Or maybe a green lake would look nice. Let's see. Let's start with the blue, I think. Remember, with our watercolour, the first wash can be really light, so as it dries we can go over and put more washes over the top. To make it darker if need be. I'm just moving my brush in one direction. Remembering in previous lessons techniques that we've learned that you're more than welcome to apply, like if you want to add some salt onto your picture, that's absolutely fine to create different textures. And I think I'm going to use, it's not integral that we do this, it's not integral that you do this, it's not, you don't have to, but it might be nice if I use the oil pastels, or if you've got wax crayons, use them with your paint and watch how they separate. There we go, so just painting all of the water. Just going right up to the edges. And I'm going to leave some room under the boat when I've decided what colour the boat is to show the reflection in the water. So I've not painted underneath the boat because I want to show the reflection. What colour shall I do the boat? Maybe a yellow. Get a nice bright yellow. Very bright yellow. And also remembering other factors that we've learned that we bear in mind, like complementary colours like blue and orange, or yellow and purple, or red and green. So now I've got a lot of blue on there, I might try and use some orange somewhere as well. Maybe I'll do, when the paint dries, I could do some stripes in orange on my boat. There we go. And my blue's running a bit, so I'm just gonna blend it in a bit with the yellow. And I'm going to have a watered down yellow under the boat to show the reflection. Like I say, to show it's the reflection in the water, I'm going to make it a bit lighter. So I'm going to use a bit more water there. And I'll go over the boat with yellow, maybe with a bit of orange as well when it dries. There we go. And as I've used yellow, I want to use a bit of purple, complementary colour. And I can mix red and blue to make purple. I'll just get one out of the pack. So just put some colour on the people. Bit of orange as well, like I say, because we've got all this blue water and this will complement it really nicely. And I'm going to leave those to dry and I can come back to the people later on. And I've got these little boats up here. Let's make those orange. Like I say, if an area is really wet, it's good to come away from it and do another part and then come back to it later to avoid the colours running too much. There we go. And I've got my people in the background here. So I'm going to use quite a small brush so I can get the detail on, or rather keep them nice and small. And like I say, remember, they're in the background. They're in the foreground there. They're way away. We can't see lots of detail on things that are way away from the camera, so we can just make out their shapes. That's absolutely fine. Got this person walking along here. I'm going to use a dark blue. Like I say, when things are further away, they don't need to be fussy. We can just have the simple shapes like that. And I'm going to leave the path for now. I'm not going to paint that because I don't want the colours to run into each other. I think I'll do some of these trees. Green. Using different shades of green. And like I say, first wash of colour, first wash of paint can be really light. That's absolutely fine because we can go back to it later and make that a bit darker. And I'm just going to use a lighter green for this grass. I've put some deck chairs in. I'm going to leave those white, so I'm just going to go around them. And I want to make things stand out. For example, if you're doing trees on grass, you don't want the grass to be the same colour as the trees because then they'll blend into it. You want them to stand out against their background. So use a lighter colour or a watered down shade. And like I say, when things dry, we can go over and add another layer of colour. Like, look at my lake when I put another layer of blue on. Look how prominent that is. Look how much that stands out. Oh, and I was going to use some oil pastels as well, wasn't I? So I'll show you something really cool. If you've got wax crayons or oil pastels, they resist the paint so that the colour separates, comes away. So if I was going to use an example, let's do it on one of the trees I've not coloured in yet. So just a small amount. They're quite thick, they're not the best for colouring in small areas of detail, intricate areas. So try and choose a large space, nothing too thin. There we go. So I've just put a few little dots on my tree there with my oil pastel, and I'm going to get a green and I'm going to go over the top and the colours will separate from each other because of the oil in the pastels against the water in the paint. There we go. Let's try that a bit again on the path as well and use some different colours. So for example, on my path, if I just did some of these pink dashes to show the different texture. So I just used a bit of pink or peach pastel on the path, and then I went over it in a grey just to show you the contrast. Can you see this is really cool? It separates. It separates from the wax, if it's a wax crayon or an oil pastel, it separates from the oil like this. They become separate. And I'd leave this to dry now and go over and do a few more layers of colour. And there you have your picture. So like I say, if you've done this with me before, if you've done a scene quotidien before, I recommend maybe challenging yourself and doing a slightly busier scene with maybe more people on. Or if it's your first time and you're a bit unsure, maybe start with something simple like two people having a conversation and really focus on what you're going to zoom in on. It could just be their mouths, their faces. And like I say, I advise, if you've got a small object, you can put in different places and draw. I do advise starting with this because it will really help inform your picture and the viewpoint of your scene quotidien. So, like I say, do this as an extra, do this first, and the focus should be on where the object is and how it looks in relation to what's around it. And then when you're feeling inspired, create your own scene quotidien, daily scene. And like I say, any materials you want. I've used oil pastels and watercolours mainly. You can use that, or if you want to just colour in felt tips, or even have it black and white in pencil with different textures on. That's absolutely fine. And I hope you've enjoyed this, everyone, and I can't wait to see what you've created. And I'll see you later on.